Donald Trump threatened BRICS countries with 100% tariffs if they ever thought of replacing the US dollar and launching a new currency. BRICS, instead of going offensive, decided to play strategically. Therefore, they did not do anything, allowing Trump to engulf himself in the trade war he has declared on various countries at the same time. He has put tariffs on both American neighbors in the North and South, making Canada and Mexico deeply resentful. But he did not stop there. He put tariffs on the European Union, facing retaliation and enduring losses worth hundreds of billions. In all that, he forgot BRICS, and that was a deep and costly mistake. Now, Trump is in no position to fight, already in an economic war at various frontiers, and BRICS has just put a last nail in the coffin by launching a new payment system. So what is this new system, and how does it destroy Trump's tariffs and the US dollar? In this video, let's find out. Donald Trump drew a red line, and BRICS just erased it. With the swagger of a Cold War hawk, Trump warned the BRICS nations not to dare replace the US dollar or launch their own currency. But BRICS didn't retaliate with noise. They retaliated with strategy. Rather than rushing into confrontation, BRICS waited, watching Trump pick fights on multiple fronts. However, to understand the full weight of what BRICS is trying to do, we must first understand why the US dollar is not just a piece of currency. It is the cornerstone of American global dominance. Since the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944, the dollar has not only been a medium of exchange, but the foundation upon which the modern global financial system was built. In the ashes of World War II, as Europe lay in ruins and colonial empires crumbled, the United States emerged with the most stable, gold-backed economy on Earth. The world, desperate for a financial anchor, turned to the dollar. This wasn't just convenience, it was structural. The dollar became the standard for international trade. Oil, gold, cars, food, electronics, almost everything traded across borders was priced in dollars. That meant if a country wanted to trade, it needed dollars. And to get dollars, it had to trade with or through the US or US-aligned institutions. This centrality of the dollar created what economists call network effects. Central banks around the world began stockpiling US dollars as foreign reserves. Today, over half of global foreign exchange reserves are held in dollars. Trillions of dollars are locked in the vaults of countries that don't even have close ties to Washington, simply because the dollar remains the access key to the global economy. This creates an artificial, permanent demand for the dollar, meaning that America can print money, sell debt in the form of US Treasury bonds, and the world will buy it because they have no other choice. It keeps US interest rates low, borrowing cheap, and inflates American economic power beyond what exports or production alone could ever justify. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. The dollar is also the currency in which most global debt is issued. Developing nations, emerging economies, and even some middle-income countries take loans denominated in dollars. They must repay them in dollars. So they must constantly earn or acquire more dollars, locking them into the dollar-based financial system. When the Federal Reserve raises interest rates, it becomes harder for these countries to repay their debt, plunging them into fiscal crises, like Argentina, Sri Lanka, and even Egypt have experienced. This debt trap gives the US enormous power over who gets loans, how they are structured, and who gets bailed out. However, the real-time enforcement arm of this dollar system is SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. While headquartered in Belgium, SWIFT is effectively controlled by Western powers and is under the watchful eye of the US Treasury. Nearly every major international transaction is routed through SWIFT, and the US has the power to monitor, block, or sever access to any participant. When Iran was banned from SWIFT, its economy was strangled. When Russia was partially excluded in 2022, It had to resort to bartering and yuan-based payments just to continue selling oil. SWIFT is the nervous system of the global economy, and the US has its hand on the spinal cord. It's this system that BRICS is now targeting. Since this system works only in dollars, BRICS know it's the system which has to be replaced, not the dollar alone. The entire SWIFT architecture makes the dollar more than just a currency. It is an empire in code and contracts. Countries need it to trade. They need it to buy oil. They need it to pay their debts. They need it to access capital markets. This gives the US a silent veto over international finance. When the US imposes tariffs or sanctions, it's not just slapping on a fine. It's threatening to cut countries off from the lifeline of modern commerce. The US doesn't need to invade a country to break its economy. It can freeze its bank accounts, block its trade routes, collapse its currency, and stop its access to global investment overnight, just by denying it access to the dollar system. This is why Donald Trump's threats to BRICS carried so much weight. When he warned of 100% tariffs if BRICS countries dared to challenge the dollar or build a rival currency system, he wasn't just posturing. He was threatening to unleash the full force of the US dollar complex economic warfare of the most sophisticated kind. But Trump's fatal assumption was that this system could never be replaced. That's where BRICS comes in. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, and current affairs impacting your lives. The threat is not that BRICS will crash the dollar tomorrow. The real danger for Washington is that BRICS is building a parallel world, a world where countries can bypass SWIFT, a world where they don't need dollar reserves, a world where oil can be bought in yuan, rupees, or a BRICS stablecoin backed by gold. A world where American tariffs lose their teeth because the rest of the world no longer needs American markets. And if that world becomes functional, the US doesn't just lose its ability to sanction or punish, it loses its place at the center of the global economy. The dollar will no longer be the master key. It will be just another currency. That's why this fight matters. That's why BRICS pay, national currency settlements, and gold-backed digital assets are not just economic experiments. They are acts of financial rebellion. And for the first time in nearly a century, that rebellion might succeed. But what has BRICS really done, and what new payment system has been launched? Well, just recently, with quiet coordination and explosive ambition, the bloc unveiled BRICS Pay, a decentralized digital payment system that sidesteps the US dollar, bypasses Western control mechanisms like SWIFT, and settles trade directly in national currencies using blockchain. At its core, BRICS Pay is not just a new payment processor. It's an alternative global financial nervous system. Built on blockchain technology, it connects the domestic payment infrastructures of its member states into a seamless transnational network. India's Unified Payments Interface, Russia's Mir, and China's WePay and Alipay, systems already capable of processing billions of transactions a day, were linked together, creating a unified digital bridge. For the first time, Russia could pay China in rubles, China could settle with India in yuan, and Brazil could complete energy transactions in reais, without once needing to touch the US dollar. Interestingly, the platform doesn't rely on speculative cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Instead, it's powered by central bank digital currencies, which are state-backed digital assets like the e-yuan, digital ruble, digital rupee, and e-real. These are programmable, traceable, secure currencies issued directly by governments, and they are designed to settle trades instantly and safely. Through this, BRICS Pay allows peer-to-peer international transfers. No intermediaries, no banks controlled by Washington, and no need to route transactions through New York or London. But how can BRICS Pay really overthrow the US dollar? Well, the United States, particularly under Trump's aggressive economic doctrine, understood almost immediately why BRICS pay was not just a payment solution. It was an existential threat to America's global power. The system threatens the dollar's dominance on three major fronts. First, it cuts out the dollar completely. Before BRICS pay, a country trading internationally had to first acquire US dollars, even if it had nothing to do with the US. Second, BRICS pay neutralizes sanctions. Historically, sanctions worked because the US controlled the financial plumbing of the world. SWIFT, Visa, MasterCard, and major settlement systems were either American or Western-dominated. However, BRICS pay renders these tools obsolete. With their own digital channels, sanctioned nations like Iran and Russia can continue trading with fellow BRICS states and other sympathetic Global South countries without asking permission or worrying about Western retaliation. Third, BRICS pay shifts global reserve behavior. If central banks no longer need dollars for trade, they will stop hoarding them in their reserves. Already, BRICS central banks have begun offloading US treasuries and instead buying gold, a tangible, politically neutral asset, to stabilize their currencies. This is a direct attack on the petrodollar system, which has long anchored global oil sales to the US dollar. Now, 95% of trade between Russia and China occurs in rubles and yuan. Saudi Arabia is openly flirting with pricing oil in yuan, a move that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. However, one of the most explosive consequences of BRICS pay is the collapse of the American tariff weapon. Under Trump, this tool became a sledgehammer. The premise was simple. Everyone needs access to the American market, and they all need dollars. Deny either, and the target collapses. But that logic no longer holds. With BRICS pay, member states and their partners can trade among themselves in their own currencies, with their own rules. If a Brazilian company wants Iranian oil, it doesn't need dollars. It doesn't need New York-based banks. It doesn't need to touch SWIFT. It needs BRICS pay and access to a secure, fast digital bridge powered by their central banks. As this ecosystem expands, the effectiveness of tariffs drops sharply. Tariffs depend on leverage. But if you can trade, develop, and survive outside the US-controlled system, that leverage evaporates. Tariffs become symbolic gestures and loud proclamations that no longer bring pain. They echo through empty chambers, not through collapsing economies. Trump may still believe that tariffs are his nuclear button, but in this new reality, it's a button that's been quietly unplugged by BRICS. What do you think? Can Trump fight various economic and trade wars he has waged at the same time? Isn't it true that BRICS has got plenty of time to replace the dollar, as Trump remains busy in tariffs and fighting the trade war he himself created? In the comment section below, share your thoughts on whether BRICS can launch a new currency and officially end American dominance forever. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We bring the latest news stories on geopolitics, economics, changing world order, and current affairs. Things you need to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.